Over the last decades, there have been too many unsolved serial murders to be counted. For every unsolved case, a serial killer is running free. Nobody knows who or where they are, and many are probably still alive. It's a scary thought. These next serial killers have never been caught, and may well be living next to you. The Hammersmith Nude Murders. In 1964 and 65, 6 women, all prostitutes, were found murdered, undressed, in or near the River Thames. Alluding to the infamous Jack the Ripper, and because the corpses were nude, the press nicknamed the killer, Jack the Stripper. 2 other murders, committed in 1959 and 63, have also been linked to the same perpetrator. Despite one of the biggest manhunts in Scotland Yard's history, the case remains unsolved, and once all forensic evidence have been destroyed or lost, the murderer almost certainly will never be known. The Oakland County Child Killer. Also known as the babysitter, this predator murdered 4 children between 1976 and 77, in southeast Michigan. He held his victims hostage for a few days or weeks. He sexually assaulted them, killed them, and left their bodies in the snow. The last confirmed case involved a boy named Timothy King. He disappeared on March 16, 1977. King's mother wrote a desperate plea to the kidnapper in a Detroit newspaper for her son's return. She spoke of wanting to give Timothy his favorite meal, fried chicken. A few days later, Timothy's body was found. His autopsy revealed that he was the victim of sexual assault, and his last meal was fried chicken. There have been many possible suspects, but no one ever was charged. The Phantom Killer. This man was responsible for the Moonlight Murderers in Texarkana, in Texas and Arkansas, in 1946. He attacked 8 people and murdered 5 of them with a .32. He killed on weekend nights, earning him a second nickname, the Moonlight Killer. The victims of the first attack, Jimmy Hollis and Mary Jean Larry, were the only victims to give a description of their attacker. They described him as being 6 feet tall, with a white mask over his face, with holes cut out for his eyes and mouth. Although Hollis believed he was a young dark-tanned white man, under 30 years old, Larry believed he was a light-skinned African American. The only other surviving victim was Katie Starks, but she never saw her assailant. Since Hollis and Larry were the only survivors to give a description, it cannot be known if the killer wore a mask during the other attacks. Police had numerous suspects, including some false confessions, but only one was considered the prime suspect. 29-year-old, young Elise Winnie, was the only major suspect in the Phantom Killer case, although he was never officially charged with any of the murders. Swinney was a known criminal with a history of counterfeiting and auto theft. He was linked to the murders by statements from his wife, Peggy, who later refused to testify against him in court. 2 of the lead investigators in the case, Max Tackett and Tillman Johnson, believed for the remainder of their lives that Swinney was guilty of the murders. Every October near Halloween, the movie The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which is based on the investigation into the murders, is the last movie shown to the public during a movie festival at Spring Lake Park. The Zodiac Killer. One of the most elusive killers in history, the self-proclaimed Zodiac Killer, murdered at least 5 people. He operated for 10 months, across the San Francisco Bay Area, in the late 1960s and possibly early 70s. The victims were shot and stabbed, and only one, Brian Hartnell, was capable of doing a killer's description that helped police create a sketch. The killer sent letters to several newspapers offering details about the murders and announcing new ones. In these messages, the Zodiac claimed responsibility for 37 murders, but investigators agree on only 7 confirmed victims, 2 of whom survived. The letters also included 4 cryptograms or ciphers, 3 of which have yet to be solved. The anonymous letters stopped in 1974. Since the first murder, police have considered and interviewed more than 2,000 people, but despite this, the Zodiac killer's identity remains unknown. The Honolulu Strangler. Here's a methodical predator. This was the only serial killing case in Hawaii's history. In 1985 and 86, in Honolulu, 5 women were killed. All were sexually assaulted, strangled, and had their hands bound in their backs with parachute cords. Police arrested a suspect, but there was never a prosecution for lack of hard evidence. Many believe that he was really the killer. He died since. A theory supported by some suggests the killer was a police officer or someone trying to impersonate one. A police officer was questioned but never charged and subsequently quit the force. With new technology, and if indeed he's still alive, authorities may well catch this guy.